Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Impossible Puzzles Show. It's episode 115 here. Good Lord, I didn't know we'd survive this long. And I'm joined by the lovely Marian.
Marian Bacol.
Marian Bacol. You said your name before me in case I didn't mispronounce it. Whatever. Tell us all about yourself.
Hi, it's great to be on this podcast. I love the puzzles that you have on your shirt and the light up one. Hi everyone. My name is Marianne. I am the founder of Somarae. Somarae is a nervous system intelligence and somatic platform that helps people, especially organizations, prevent burnout and solve the puzzle of how we really tackle this epidemic of burnout, stress, and mental health issues in the workplace, in entrepreneurship, all of that stuff. So my background has been 20 years in marketing. I've been in tech before, but I've for the last decade been a somatic and breathwork facilitator as well. So really solving the puzzle of how the body and the breath are able to help us on this journey.
That is a puzzle of puzzles. Breath and no longer marketing. You switched out of traditional work into super traditional work, could we say?
Well, I mean, as a founder, I think you always have to do marketing. Marketing is, I think, the foundation of a lot of things. So I still do a lot of marketing, but that's what I used to do in the corporate world. And then I had my own marketing agency before I went through my own journey of healing and wellness to get to the other side. And that's why I've kind of incorporated it now.
Mental health, isn't everyone just completely effed up in this day and age? What are your thoughts?
I think that's the thing. A lot of people are trying to solve mental health cognitively and by overthinking it, and that actually makes it worse. You can't outthink your way out of, your mental health. It's actually stored also. The body is a part of it, the nervous system, it's the emotional health. It's all tied together. So that's really what I help people. That's what I teach people is through your nervous system. When people are usually having mental health issues, I feel stressed. I feel overwhelmed. If you notice, that's what or I am stressed, I am overwhelmed. It's because their body's feeling it. Like do you get overwhelmed, stressed, anxious?
I literally right now, there is a wife and 5 kids making all sorts of noise upstairs, and there's always more to do than time to do it in. And stress is my middle name.
What do you notice in your body? Like how do you feel that stress?
Great question. I sometimes feel like a bit of weight in my head. Sometimes my back starts to ache, or I don't position myself properly on my comfortable basement chair. Sometimes I lose a lot of clarity in if I'm supposed to present something or if I need to explain something. Clarity starts to weaken. It's hard to get a good night's rest. There were times in my life where I had a lot more stress dealing with like a room full of crazy teenagers, or being shouted at by some angry rich person, or different episodes. But sometimes my hand would be shaking a little bit, like something out of, I don't know, a Napoleon movie or some horror movie. Tension. I'm better now at 42 years old, but there were times where I used to shout back or even, I don't know, throw a punch or two, shamefully. Just even talking about it is reducing certain amounts of stress. Somatic. But could you elaborate more on the term somatic? I know the word soma. The word soma comes to mind.
Soma is from the Greek word body, like living vessel.
Yes.
So somatics is really body-based, like body work. So things that involve our body, whether it's shaking, breath work, so it's body-based wellness work, things that have a mind and body connection. It's not just about stillness. It's not just about clearing your mind. It's actually feeling all the different things that our body through our nervous system tells us.
So interesting. And there's so much to know about, as you said it very wisely, that there's the idea of, yes, someone's like, I'm going to write a book about stress, or I'm going to create an app to help you reduce stress. But stress is something caused through the body itself. This is not to be cured necessarily by more technology, or more yelling, or more stupid ideas, or more venture capital. This is solved by less, reduce, or what's the saying by the Michelangelo? Let's chip away the stone that is not David. Let's reduce things. Let's get clear. Am I in the ballpark at all?
Well, yeah, it actually lends to the concept of Somarae. So we are a tech platform. However, we are about simple micro practices. So, instead of, and look, I've been in the wellness space for now like 12 years. I love the gadgets. I love going to the spas, all the things. But if you take all of that away, the expensive things and the memberships, you still have your body and your breath. So as long as you know how to breathe properly, move, most people, by the way, are not breathing properly or deeply, and that affects their overall health. That all you need is your body and your breath. At the end of the day, once you really master those, know the practices, you can get through anything, because the whole point is not to feel any stress, because there's a purpose to stress. However, in the world that we live in today, we have consistent elevated levels of stress. That's actually more, we've gone to the far end. We're not supposed to be feeling all of this stress in our bodies all the time.
It's fascinating. Could you elaborate for those of us, or many people watching who are Jewish tech nerds who stare at screens all day, what is the wellness space really all about?
That's so broad, because a lot of people can think that it's meditation, it's going to a retreat, or maybe it's going for a walk. I think wellness is a very personalized view, because someone can think that, what makes me feel well or improve my well-being can be a walk, because it could change. It's really personalized to you. Sometimes maybe you just need some fresh air. Maybe for you, that is going to the gym. Maybe it's going to see friends. I think wellness is like this overarching bubble of what brings you personal well-being. Like genuinely, not performatively, not because you think that's what you're supposed to do, but truly. And well-being increases your levels of dopamine, oxytocin, feelings of peace, feelings of calm.
It's so interesting. I'm around, and I always say this, I'm around all these, like, I don't know, 100 some founders or startup people or tech entrepreneurial people, and they're all like hardcore Israeli or male young male go-getters, and it's almost like taboo. If you walk in the room and be like, everyone, what's your stress level? Or everyone, why are you so angry today? Or everyone, when's the last time you said something true about your life? They would all freak out, because there's this whole culture of a fugazi, and you have to, a machismo, and everyone has to talk about how great they are. And even though a lot of it's fake and a lot of it's fluffy, and there's the LinkedIn, the smoke and mirrors, and how come entrepreneurial men can't be like, hey, how are you feeling today? How's your marriage? How's your girlfriend? Why isn't that kosher?
Because I think our society has deemed that as less than intellectual pursuits. But that's all like a mindset. because we all know that if something affects you emotionally, it doesn't matter, you know, you go through a breakup or someone passes in your in your family, that, you know, that has an effect on you, and it could affect how you deal with life and business. And even though people may not admit to it, they will. That's why so many things happen, you know, all of a sudden they're like, it came out of nowhere. And I'm like, no, it was there. You just chose not to look at it. And I totally can relate, because my wake-up call didn't happen until 12 years ago when I overdosed and had a near-death experience. So I know how it is to bury everything, but to excel professionally, because that's kind of what you're taught. I'm the eldest daughter of Asian immigrants, so you kind of have to check off and succeed and do all the things and not talk about your emotions, but they'll eventually come out one way or another. And that's really what started my journey to taking radical responsibility and accountability for the way that I was processing things and living my life and healing. So that's really what kickstarted all of this for me.
Wow. And you're sharing this in a openly, publicly. You're not afraid. You are not afraid.
No, I've done a lot of work to be able to speak about this. I actually talked about this in my TEDx in 2018.
Yes. Yeah, you should I also be not afraid to share my innermost faults and demons on the forum of the world stage and YouTube, and is that allowed?
That's a personal choice, you know. I think people should feel comfortable to share, but I know it's also difficult. So I think that's everyone's individual journey. I'm never going to force anyone to share, because it took me a long time and a lot of deep inner work to get to that point where I could speak about it. So I know how it is to be on the other side. So I would never force anyone to share it, only if they feel ready to.
But you're smiling and seem happy, and you feel like you've let a burden go, and does it feel good to release not just the wellness?
Well, it no longer has power over me, right? So I no longer felt that same maybe shame or whatever, that feeling that I couldn't speak my truth, because I've done a lot of the work. So I'm
interesting.
Actually very transparent. I talk about this regularly on my social media, and that's actually how I was able to organically bring in the community that I wanted to, because they resonated with my story and my authenticity.
So you are using authenticity and your personal story to grow both as a person and holistically through the work that you're doing. This is like miles opposite from this is miles off. This is like almost heretical from the people I'm around. Is this the right way? Is this the right way to grow and develop a business, a project, a community?
I think that's up to individual people's idea, right? Because some people sharing so openly about themselves may not be authentic to them if they're not ready to share it. Do you know what I mean?
You can inauthentically.
People who can force it and be like, you know, this, but haven't done the inner work. So it really depends. And I think people can sense that if someone's just making things up in order to get a reaction from people.
So interesting. And you worked in marketing for so long. You were not your own independent thinker, entrepreneur. What was the change? When did you wake up one day and be like, I'm done with the working for the man?
Well, it was a journey, right? Like my big wake-up call was the near-death experience. That was a very big, like, all right, I need to do something differently, because I literally, died. I almost died. I actually spoke about this in my TEDx talk. And from there, I left LA, where I grew up. People thought I was crazy, because they're like, you're doing so well professionally, check off all the boxes. I was like, no, if I stay here, like, I'll just repeat the cycle. I needed to get away from all of it. Yes. And so I bought a one-way ticket, moved to Miami 12 years ago. I was there for 10 years. And that's when, really alone, I was away from family, friends. I was on my own. without no plan. No, this is the first time I actually followed my intuition instead of what I thought was right. Because we were always taught, this is what you're supposed to do, right? Go to college, go have this degree, climb the, like, check, check, check. This is supposed to, if you do this, this equals fill in the blank, happiness, fulfillment, whatever. And that didn't happen. And so I went on a journey of really deep, like, personal discovery and healing. So
yes,
all the spectrums. I worked with therapists, coaches, mentors, medicine women. I did meditation, therapy, to working with psychedelics and plant medicine, like all the things that, I was my own guinea pig, and to see what resonated with me, and I just started sharing organically online, I don't know, like 12 years ago, because I'm like, what? A gratitude practice helps you? And by the way, now there's so many studies, because people are doing studies, brain waves, all that. But 12 years ago,
yeah.
I was definitely on the fringe. People thought I was nuts. And now there's study after study about the benefits of somatics, nervous system work, trauma healing, meditation, all of these things now. So that was kind of the unfolding. I had no idea what I'm doing now is what would unfold, but it was just me kind of leaning into the things that I was doing for myself.
Fascinating. And I can so relate. I'm not coming from the, shall we say, Asian American, but I could tell you the voice of my Jewish grandmother and my Jewish mother and all these, I don't want to say anything anti-Semitic, but these Jewish tropes, which are probably exactly the same as as what you experience. Why is this going on? Why are there these raw, what do you call it? This raw, bizarre, fake ethos pressure, telling everyone always what they must do be if it doesn't work anyway, and everyone's going crazy anyway. What sayest thou?
I think it's cultural, religious, all the programming, all the things. But I don't think there's one way. There's one set way to be happy. Like, how would you know? Maybe for someone it is just creating art, and they were forced to be, I don't know, in a cubicle, and their soul was dying. Like, you just don't know what people are capable of, unless they lean into the things that they love. And I think that's why you see so many stories now.
Yes. Yes.
I turned 40 last year, and this is when I had the idea to start a tech company. And I'm actually glad that I'm doing this now. You see so many millennials, you said you're 40, people our age who are kind of going through big pivots.
Yes.
Because a lot of them did what their parents told them to do, or what they were supposed to do. And I've seen this from doctors to surgeons to people in finance. They're like, this is what I was taught I was supposed to do, get the degree, do the things. Maybe they made their money and they realized I'm still not happy. I'm still stressed, or whatever it is. Literally, I've seen this so many from not only my friends, people online, and then they're finally rediscovering, I've always loved this. Let me try this. And it works out for them, because I'm like, there's so many ways now, especially with the internet, that you can make money and a living and sustain yourself through the creative ways that you want, that generations before were not able to.
So only now it's coming out to the world that, okay, not every Jewish boy has to be a lawyer, doctor, accountant, engineer. But that's right. Yeah, when I was born in 1984, it was different. There wasn't so much opportunity for a Jewish guy with a yarmulke sitting in his basement in Toronto.
I think the internet, social media, tech has evolved where we can share our different interests, hobbies, gifts in a way that we never were able to before, and monetize from it.
And that is like a new. So you were just early. You had the right hunch, and you were early. Like, get the hell out of LA, head over to the beach in Miami, and find myself and purify myself from my mother's yelling, so to speak. I get it. I can so relate. I still have my mother yelling at me. And you too.
Well, I don't have that anymore. It's been a long time establishing boundaries with my mom, but I think I didn't have all the steps laid out when I made that move. I just knew that what I needed to do was leave. And so I think anyone who's listening, I never had this 10-step plan or all these things. Now, now with more experience, I can create a plan. But at that time, it was like what just felt most true to me. And then I did that. And then I just kept doing it. And I just also kept doing the work, whether it was the deep healing emotional work, as well as the work it is to establish a business and be an entrepreneur. It's not easy, so pitching, marketing, all the boring, repetitive stuff that people are afraid to do, creating the content, reaching out, doing the sales, that's also puts you out of your comfort zone, but you still got to do it.
I can so relate how many, even before you came on, and me trying to do my half-hearted presentations, which are better today than they were yesterday or a year ago. It's hard. It's hard to sit, what's the term? To sit in the hot seat, where you have to do everything, and you have to evangelize and present and market and explain and do the trade shows and do the it's not the easiest road. What's the saying? The path less taken, the path not taken. It's you love it. You love it. You can never go back to the Matrix.
No, and I'm just not employable in the traditional sense.
What? Not employable?
I tried that, and I was like, what do you mean? All the info and data is here, and your answer is, well, we just never did it that way. So I was just like, it boggles my mind. And so I think I was always meant to be an entrepreneur and a founder. I've always had that inkling. Even since I was younger, I would pretend to own a restaurant and, cook food. I've always been into food, like all these things and ideas. And I also don't think it's for everyone, because you have to have a certain level of confident delusion in yourself.
Yes.
To keep going.
Let's unpack this confident delusion. I think I use different words. I was saying to a few people, I was saying the other day that you have to just mega believe in yourself, and you have to, I didn't use the term confident delusion. That's a better term. What's your definition of mega self-confident delusion? How do you unpack that to someone a few steps behind yourself?
Yeah, well, I think it's a muscle. It's a muscle that can be trained. And I think every time you take a step to something that you don't have any evidence of yet, but you still do it, maybe no one in your family has opened up a business, or no one in your family has moved outside to a different place, and you don't really have a lot of evidence, but you know that you're meant to, and then you do it, you start collecting evidence. And then be like, oh, I did that and it worked out. And then you do another thing that, like, I trusted myself, I believed in myself, and that worked out. And even if it doesn't, quote unquote, work out, you always learned a lesson. So I think and this is actually part of neuroscience and rewiring your brain. This is actually very linked to nervous system patterning and all this kind of stuff. Because the part of your brain that activates when you think of a memory, as well as you visualize something that hasn't happened yet, is the same part that lights up.
Yes.
So, and you hear this from lots of athletes, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all that. They visualize the shot. They do the thing already over and over and over again, that they create a new neural pathway in their brain that, like, oh yeah, I've done this before. This is possible. This is that belief. And that's what happens, because, that's the training. But if you consistently just follow the belief, the old patterning, the old neural pathway that I can't do it, it can't be done, then that's what's going to happen, because that's the path that you keep going on. So neuroplasticity, this is all part of it. That's why I say confident delusion, because you have to create that neural pathway over and over again by visualization and believing in it. And then people will wonder, oh my God, you did it. I'm like, yeah, because in my mind, I've already done it. I've already achieved it. And now it's just being shown.
It's like
So
a muscle, and you've achieved
it's a
it, and it's
muscle.
hard to. Yeah, I find it hard to explain to people. What's the saying, like, or in my case, to give more context, right? So like I lived for, like, there was a good 10 years of my life where I was just living, working deep in the, like, religious Jewish world, working in like a synagogue or in a private school capacity. And I remember bumping into someone, I don't know, like a month ago, and they're like, "Where have you been? What's wrong with you? You're not religious anymore." And I'm like, "Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second." It was so confrontational, and like guns, almost as like a guns point. "Where have you been? And you broke all the rules." And I'm like, "No, man, I'm just finding my path in life." And do you find that there are people who confront you, maybe of your background, and they're like, "What are you up to?" And this is not allowed. But aren't they really saying, like, "What are you up to?" And how can I liberate myself from my shackles? And
Yeah, I think when people, because there's a lot of times in my life, family, friends, people also I don't know that say like, "Oh, that's not possible," or whatever. Like they said, it's not possible until someone does it. Most of the time it's their own. And because I've studied a lot about psychology and people and how people's brains works and all that stuff, it really is more of a reflection that they think, since it's not possible for them, this is their belief. It's not saying that that's true, because I think anyone who truly believes in themselves and does the work can do what they need to do. But that's how powerful we are, and our brains are, and our bodies are, is that it will stop us through our own set of beliefs and identity, and that's what they're projecting. They're like,
yes,
"I would never do it. I can't do it. So why did you?"
that's the projection. Just to unpack you're coming with wisdom of people and psychology and one's own overcoming your own challenges. And that's what really happens, is that a person every person projects their own, what do you call it, their own unfulfilled parts of themselves, or
Yeah.
unresolved issues get projected in the form of insults or complaints or disagreements or
Mm-hmm.
anger. But that's all. Yeah, I tried to say this to someone. I'm like, "Hold on a second. If you have a problem with me, buddy, that's your problem. That's yours. I have a force field. I don't care what you think." And it's like, "You don't care what I think? I'm Rabbi so and so." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you think you are." And then, do you ever push back, or are you more respectful of people of different walks of life, different perspectives, and you've learned how to agree to disagree? Or are you one who's like, "Oh, come and get me, I'm gonna come and get you"?
No, so I protect my peace. I never believe that I can change someone's
Mm,
mindset by forcing that, because people will stand on their own. They're like, "No, that's just human nature. Like, no, you can't, convince me otherwise," unless they're open to it. There's a difference. But most people that come like that are not. And so by forcing someone your own beat, that's why you see a lot of contention like
mm.
online, because people with their set are trying to force each other. For me, my belief system is that I live my life, and the way that I show up gives people who are open the opportunity to see what's possible for them. So I do
Yes,
not waste my energy on trying
yes,
to win someone over, because then it's more of like, is it just my ego that needs to be right? And so I'm like, "All right, you go huff and puff over there and dysregulate your nervous system, while I'm like, okay, I'm okay." And I usually, if it's
fascinating.
online or people that don't know me, I block. I think as I've gotten older, it's so much easier for me to like put a boundary up, versus when I was younger, I was very much a people pleaser. I wanted, people to like me or not have these, views. But as I've gotten older, I've been like, that's your issue, whatever you think, that's your life. You do what you want with your life, but don't try to enforce what you want on mine. And I will block, I will put a boundary up, I have cut people off. Like, that is something that I do now, just because it's not worth my peace.
Fascinating. You have found an effective way to deal with challenging characters, people who are trying to push you around, people who are time wasters. What about mentorship and giving guidance to others who are not yet ready to start their own company, project, technology?
Well, that's why I create my content, for people who are ready, they seek it, right? Just like when I want to learn something, I research, I look up the people that, like, oh, okay, I want to accomplish what they did, and I seek it out. But if people aren't ready, they're not going to be ready. You can't force anyone. So I share it, and then it's the ones that will resonate. And sometimes it's not the right time. There were many times in my life in the past where I wasn't ready to hear whatever the message, the lesson was. And then, I don't know, maybe the 10th time it finally clicked. It's like reading a book for the 4th time. There's things that you miss, or a movie, and you're like, you just weren't ready for it. So
when this fascinating, I heard a great quote the other day. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. And that timing, so many things in life are like the right, a time, quoting some biblical verses here, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck, a time to grow, a time to reap, etc. I probably misquoted that. What do you say to your mother when she shouts at you? And give me advice. I have a Jewish mother.
Well, the advice, this was years in the making, I've come to accept that my mother doesn't have the same depth emotionally as I do. And I think that was the first step. Like, I was always trying to make her see what I saw, or the depth, but you can't force that. And I went through a lot of therapy to really come to terms, like, you're right, I can't meet me where they're at. Like, if she can't meet me where I was, and what was causing a lot of my pain was holding on to this hope that she would finally one day, it all will make sense to her. But I'm like, she hasn't shown me this ever. Why do I think overnight she is going to miraculously have this depth?
Fascinating.
And it took a lot of, when I said I was like, no, she can, I believe, but we hold on sometimes to potential instead of what people are showing us. And when I finally was ready to accept that, I was like, oh, okay. Because at the end, I was the one that was suffering, most of the time from it. And so I've come to accept that my relationship with her I love her mostly from afar. And when we do communicate, it's where she's at, and that's been good. It's not, I don't have the most open relationship with my mother, but it's good with what it is. And I think it's not something you can force, and so I'm a lot happier with it because I finally see it for what it is. And there's other ways that she shows her love, she tends to be more of and then you go into love languages and psychology. Her love language is more material. She will give me money and gifts and all that. And before, all I wanted was quality time and all these things. And she could never meet me there. And when I started realizing that I'm forcing my way that I receive to hers. So now we spend time, we'll go to nice restaurants and we'll shop, and she's happy. And I'm like, you know what, this is where we're at. I can't have deep conversations with her, but that's why I have other friends where I can do that. I cannot force it because she can't meet me, and then I'll just be disappointed.
Fascinating. Here we're opening up this beautiful topic, beautiful segue to that. Different people are different, and there's depth. Some people need to study philosophy and have deep life goals, missions, visions. Other people are happy with the status quo. This is the country I was born in. This is the city I was born in. This is what people do. This is what they believe. I'm happy within that. I'm not feeling any I don't need to be study Shakespeare and do plays. I don't need to have a podcast. I don't need to do this. Other people need innately, like yourself, like there's a need to do different. There's a want, a need, and you can't just push that away or say that doesn't exist. And that's the different depth in love language. Could you could you give the ABCs for those who are new to this way of thinking? How would you explain in a very basic level what is the different love languages or expressions of such?
Yeah, so there's actually a book about it, several books, and you can take a test online and, to see what your love languages are. I think it's like physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation, quality time. There's 5. For some reason, I'm forgetting the last one.
Yeah, you're good. Your memory's good.
Yeah.
The 5 love languages. Yeah.
That was there's 5 of that.
Words of I'm looking it up right now. Words of affirmation. Which love language is your words of affirmation? Physical touch, receiving gifts, quality time, and acts of service.
Acts of service, yes, that's the one I forgot. Acts of service. Yeah. So for me, as long as someone isn't doing harm to me and others, because that's a completely different story. Like my father, I completely cut him off because he was my abuser when I was younger. So that I have a hard boundary. But with my mom, it's been slightly different. And so everyone has their own journeys with their parents, and that's all complicated on its own.
Yes.
But I've been able to, like I say, love people. You can love people from afar.
How come as society, a big philosophic question here, how come as society, as cultures, as nations, people like to kind of form little cliques, little groups, like we're the Jewish people, and we're the LA shoppers, and we're the Toronto, like we're the sports fans, and we're the, I'm using crazy examples, but like, how come as human beings, we always form these little cliques, and like, we're the religious people, we're the not religious people, and then there's all this communal fabric of like, well, we're part of this group, but not that group. Why? What's that all about? What the hell?
I mean, there's different ways to think about it. I think people are tribal by nature. They want to find commonalities. It's a innate human nature to want to belong, right? So it's the sense of belonging that, like, okay, I belong to this, and there's several research studies and books on belonging and how people really want to feel a sense of connection and belonging. So that's one. But I think what people have lost the art of is the duality of you can have a sense of belonging to certain things and also feel connected to everyone. There's nuance in it and I think a lot of people do not understand nuance anymore.
Yes. What?
I think it's a lost. I think it's a lost art, but also I think with news, technology can be divisive, and we can talk about the algorithms because the algorithms will feed you what you want, right? So all you see is the same thing over and over instead of other things. But that's like a technology thing and how it feeds into that. But yeah, it's that nuance. And then there's actually a thing called metacognition. So metacognition is one's ability to think about your thoughts. So you have and not everyone has this. A lot of people don't realize that they can actually think different thoughts or think differently about what they're thinking. And people who have high metacognition have higher self-awareness, and they're better communicators. They tend to have more confidence. So an example is, let's say you are driving and someone cuts you off and you have road rage, right? And
Who told you?
Maybe a pattern that you've always done is like and I'm also, this is like something that I've done in the past. I used to live in LA. People used to frustrate me. You can chase after them, honk, like get really, really angry, chase but once you have metacognition, someone does that, you could actually take a step back. And this is where somatics and nervous system regulation, like, you know what? I'm very agitated. I'm pissed off. Let me take a breath. So you're able to self-regulate. You have the self-awareness and ask yourself, why am I going to run after that? Like, why do I feel the need to run after that? You know, like you start to analyze and think about your thoughts. You start to unpack it sometimes in real time and be like, oh, that's because I feel like he's wronged me. And you start kind of psychoanalyzing yourself, but you're able to think back and peel the layers until you're like, you know what, that's not worth my energy, not my time. And then you're able to, you know, pick a different path.
Fascinating.
That's a long-winded way, but metacognition in short is the ability to think about your thoughts and then have the ability to shift and change and be like, you know what, with new information or what I've learned, actually, maybe I was incorrect and I can choose a different path. Not a lot of people have that level of self-awareness.
So interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking in my lifetimes I've like lashed out or scolded someone or shouted at someone or all sorts of, I guess, different episodes and characters where I've looked back and I'm like, oh God, did I say that? Did I do that? And fascinating. It's like oh man, I wish this stuff was talked about 40 years ago when I was a younger man. I guess that's what life is. Life is like you have to go through life and then you look back at some 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, you're like, oh, oopsie, oopsie. Yeah, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. I love how and we're touching on so many interesting topics here. Do you feel that your deep knowledge of psychology and all this wisdom you've amassed has made you happier you're just happier. You're a happier and more fulfilled. Marian is a happier, more fulfilled person, waking up in the morning with its own unique challenges, but is where she wants to be.
I don't think it's the knowledge itself, it's the applied knowledge. So one can know what to do and still not do it. So yes. I know a lot of people who cognitively, right? This is why I talk about the difference like somatically and nervous system, because a lot of people, there's a lot of content, but there's no shortage of information where people literally lay out how to make money, how to be happier, how to be in a good relationship, how to lose weight. There's all the knowledge in the world that people can access in their fingertips that give you the cognitive, the education.
Yes.
But unless they make the changes, do the identity shifts, make the action, the moves to do whatever it is that they want, then they're still where they're at. So I think for me, it's because I've been able to learn, grow, and then apply it in my own life that I am happier and more fulfilled because I've taken the action. I've done the work, not just mentally, but internally, like in my body and in my nervous system. And I'm still constantly learning because, I mean, I still get into arguments with my significant other or someone can dysregulate me, you know, like we're not immune to it, but I just have better tools. So now I can be like, you know, I can feel the feels and be like, wait.
Me too.
All right.
Me too. I've always tried to tell people, I'm like, oh, that's some AI thing voice in the background. And they're like, no, Michael, that's pretty authentic Jewish wife screaming in the background. And you can't, and I'm like, no, Opus, Claude, there's new audio tooling. It's like, no, I know when, no. It's like, nope, you're not gonna. Fascinating. And I in the last couple minutes we have you, this has been a fast, exciting, and juicy episode. What is your advice to those younger people? And you said some wisdom before, but what is your mantra? What is your freestyle rap, if you will, minus the curse words and the gangster signs? But what is your message to?
I don't know if I freestyle rap, but I think learn yourself and really work with your body, with the wisdom. I think people only think that everything is, we can solve intellectual or cognitively, but there's so much wisdom in our bodies and what our nervous system is telling us that we are not listening to, because we've been told to like logic our way out of everything. But sometimes that's not the solution. There's so many other layers. And I think giving yourself space so that you can listen to your own inner wisdom is so key. Whether it's your inner wisdom connected to God, the universe, whatever it is, I think we need that, because a lot of things that we see outside can be noise from really listening to what it is that we want. And that's how I've made decisions now in my life, because if I listened to everyone telling me, like, I would have never left LA, never changed careers, never have gotten out of relationship. I would have just stayed in that. But I chose to listen, even though it didn't make logical sense, to what my inner knowing was. And yeah.
Amen. Perfect. Incredible. We will pause here. And this was a fantastic episode. Marian, we have to have you again to share your great wisdom, and we can go deeper into the services you provide through your loving, growing company. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.